Martin Odegaard, if you didn't know, is the most important player in this Arsenal side, and I'm going to prove it in this video. The game's finished, of course, between Arsenal and Chelsea. It is finished 1-1. Arsenal nearly got the victory, and Martin Odegaard, in a couple of minutes in that Inter Milan game, you could see the starting point of what Arsenal want to be. And I think what's been a very difficult few months for Arsenal since he's been out of the team, you could absolutely see why he's absolutely crucial. Paul Merson said, he went, Declan, in his interview with him on Sky Sports, it was a good interview, he went, Declan, is it a must-win game? And Declan was very respectful and answered the question. He said, Paul, didn't call him Merce, he said, Paul, it is a must-win game. So first question to you guys is, was it a must-win game? The fact that he didn't win the game, but Man City didn't win their game, but Liverpool did win their game, was it still a must-win game? That's the first question. We're going to do something a little bit fun here as well, because we're going to go through some player ratings. So get yourself comfy. And if you like the player ratings element of it, first of all, put yours in the comments down below. Secondly, get involved by hitting the like button, because it will allow me to know that this is something that you want us to do moving forward. Right, let's get straight into it. And what I wanted to do is just give you the kind of comparison, because every single player on the pitch for Arsenal was better because of Martin Odegaard. And I can prove it. Let's look at some of the games where he's been missing and some things that have been missing with the fact that he's not there. First one, Newcastle. And one word that I'm probably going to say a lot here is intensity. Because Martin Odegaard, there's so many little elements that rub off on the rest of the team. That's before we even get into systems, formations, and the symmetry that he provides. But in terms of the press, first and foremost, we know that 4-4-2 structure that Arsenal have used for a long time, and that generally it's often a mid-block, but it's one where there's an intensity to it, and he's looking to affect the game, not allow teams to be comfortable on the ball. And without him there, Kai Havertz has been the main man when it comes to that. And he's not been very main. He's a bit timid in what he does. There's not this, I've said this before, some players, they're in a rush to be great. I feel like Martin Odegaard is one of those players, and I think it really does brush off on the rest of this team. And, here's the first example of it. So this is without the ball. Newcastle against Arsenal, Kai Havertz looking to get to him, but he doesn't get out to him quickly. There's no pace to what he's doing. And very quickly, they're able to play the ball through them. Something that Arsenal do not want to happen. But Kai Havertz is doing something that maybe he's not, utterly brilliant at, or maybe it's just one that Martin Odegaard, as good as he is on the ball, and we're going to talk about that, is so fantastic in terms of setting up the team to win the ball back. And I can show you an example of it. Right at the start of this game, 10 minutes into the game, just taking control. He really is a fantastic captain for the team. You've got the normal setup here, but Martin Odegaard, he looks, he surveys, and he communicates. If I zoom in on him here, you can see he's telling Kai Havertz, no, you go, you cut off that passing lane, get across, get to the defender. It's these little things that are going to make a massive, massive difference to this team. If we go back to what we were talking about before in terms of games without Martin Odegaard in the side, so many players are affected by it. You've got Kai Havertz in the positions that he gets into. Let's stay with Kai Havertz for a second, because here's a great example. Kai Havertz consistently had to either go to the right with the ball or drop deep to help the team. Here he is, right here, having to drop deep, not really wanting to be involved in this area. He wants to be higher up the pitch because he's the centre forward. That's going to stretch the opposition as well. Isn't able to do that, loses the ball, and then all of a sudden Bournemouth are on the attack. Kai Havertz in the game against Liverpool, I think is a real example of it as well. Here we go. Over to that right-hand side. Now, we did a video talking about it. It was the right decision. It was to get the ball to your best player, which is Bukayo Saka. So it was an understandable reason for doing exactly that. But we'll come back to these average positions, because Martin Odegaard is wholeheartedly in 90 minutes. And the fact he's played 90 minutes, by the way, is absolutely ridiculous. It just really shows that Arsenal, they're not done yet. Don't sleep on them just yet. And the away games that they've had to play so far this season, even playing Bournemouth away, that is not an easy game. The Man City's have had to play a lot of tough teams away from home. Chelsea, of course, today. But Kai Havertz's role has become very, very different as well. Let's move on to Ben White, for example. Ben White as well. When you're thinking of that triangle, how do you create a triangle with two sides? Answer that for me. You don't. It's impossible. Here's an example of it. Ben White on the ball. If Martin Odegaard is on the pitch, then Bukayo Saka can be in a different position. He can be out wide. Instead of Declan Rice being here, Declan Rice can be in a different position. And Odegaard would be in this position. And you would have yourself a much prettier triangle. But instead, Ben White has not many options. So he decides to put a cross in. But everyone's on the same line. It's not really anything that's going to hurt the opposition. And they cross the ball in. And it's easy. The same thing happens here. There is a Martin Odegaard shaped hole right here. And that triangle that we're talking about would be there straight away. And that triangle between Ben White, Bukayo Saka and Odegaard has been so influential, not just on that right-hand side of the pitch, but the left-hand side as well. And so in this moment, again, he puts a cross in, and it's just really easy for the opposition. You're not really dragging anyone out of position. And then if we move on to Bukayo Saka, another player who has struggled. First of all, Kai Havertz. So when the ball even gets to Bukayo Saka, okay, he can have a go on his own. But aside from that, there's very little that he can do. But then this is another example as well, where the ball gets played over to him. But if Martin Odegaard was there might be a little bounce back. And again, when we're talking about that triangle, the triangle of doom, let's call it, it just doesn't exist because it's just two players. You know that he's going to cut back onto this left foot to put a cross in, and you can get three bodies essentially on one because this whole area of the pitch is just not being utilised at all. And that is what Martin Odegaard offered up time and time again. And I think if you're an Arsenal fan, you really should be you can just sort of breathe again. I just think it's so crucial for the team because when you look at how they set up, now Saka, let's take that off him. You have Saka up here and Odegaard just working in this half space. Actually, let's put the half spaces on. Partey was able to sit there. Havertz be able to play far more centrally in this channel here. Had less touches in this game, but wasn't getting dragged out of position. And in terms of distances for the whole team, it just makes life that little bit easier. Martinelli able to play on this left-hand side, and we'll focus on that left-hand side as well, because as much as you've got a better triangle here that we've touched on already with Odegaard and Saka, what you also start to create with the sort of distances that players have to come and help out. Correa can't double up as well as he would have. He's moving across. He's got to move across. You then are able to create a second triangle over on this left-hand side. And the distances between the whole back four of the opposition, it's just 2 or 3 yards in terms of width. But having someone like Odegaard who's comfortable to get on the ball in those positions, it's absolutely crucial for Arsenal moving forward. Let me show you the average positions that we spoke about a little bit earlier on, because you've got the game against Liverpool here. Here we go. Kai Havertz moving over to that left-hand side. You've got Declan Rice having to work over to that right-hand side. Obviously, he was able to focus on the left-hand side in this game. You've got Partey playing right back. A lot of injuries and things here, but the triangles are just not the triangles that you want to have. And to have something in those half spaces is absolutely crucial. On the left-hand side, there is no triangle. There's nothing going on. Whereas when we go to the the Chelsea game, you can see exactly what we've been talking about there in terms of those triangles of the team. And Declan Rice looks a better player over there on that left-hand side. You're able to get a different sort of side of him. He's able to drop deep, and Timber can move forward, and they can work as a triangle themselves. But Declan Rice can also pick up the ball in this area here, help out in build-up play, which he did a lot actually. He'd step in and help out with Thomas Partey, and then he would then be able to get on the ball and drive himself, or he could make that underlapping run, or he can go Timber, off you go. There's just so much more fluidity there because you haven't got players in positions that they don't really want to be in. Let me show you some examples of what Odegaard was able to do for the team. We've shown you the sort of pressing structure and what he's able to offer there, the tenacity that he's able to show, constantly driving the team forward. And this is a great little moment. This is about 15 minutes in. And there were the two areas that he regularly picked up. It was this area here. Let me show you on the tactics board quickly. He would either pick up this little half space here, or he would step all the way out. And it was depending on if Ben White was here and Saka had stepped in there, or he wanted to sort of find a way to get the ball back round to the other side. Thomas Partey maybe stepping into this position here, Timber over here. So to move the ball from one side to the other, so he could then get the ball to Saka. Again, something that just wouldn't be happening if he wasn't on the pitch. And you can see it here, just arms flailing throughout. So let me just show you. So first of all here, he's sort of screaming, going, let's get the ball on the other side so I can work in this channel for the team. And again, let me show you these channels. There's your line there. You've got Ben White actually playing more centrally here because he's actually gone and told him to do that. Oh, God. One line here, one line here, one line here. Timber now getting involved. We've spoken about Declan Rice here. It creates more space. It makes life a little bit more difficult for the other players on the pitch. But Odegaard, I just want to highlight the tenacity of the man and the fact that he's a leader. Again, screaming for it. It's a couple of seconds later. And he's frustrated. He wants the ball over on that side. It doesn't come, but a few seconds after that, he doesn't stop. He drives into the box. And it's just something that, say, like a Trossard, he would just sort of stay there and wait. Odegaard is not staying there and waiting. He's getting on with it. And this is actually about a minute or so later where, again, he was sort of screaming for the ball, but in the end, he came and got it himself. And again, it just, even him dropping deep to come and get that, something that Trossard wouldn't do. But when we talk about those triangles, you've got Jurgen Timber here, who's driven. The symmetry, you've got Havertz in the more central role, Saka's actually over here. You've just got so much more symmetry to this team. He's constantly looking for the solutions to sort of affect the game, and he's doing exactly that. And this, of course, is the goal. And it's the same thing. We showed you that example earlier on where, you know, having that guy that's going to go, yep, don't worry, give it to me. It's absolutely crucial, and it's something that Arsenal have been screaming for, but also someone who's got the energy to, and this is, of course, in the 60th minute, and it's a player that hasn't played for, a month or so, to drive, get on the ball. And this against a young Chelsea team with lots of energy, a very good Chelsea team, by the way, and we're going to talk about them. But he drives, and it's having that person in that area of the pitch to create triangles. And not just that, deal with the pressure of Cucurella, hold on to the ball. And we've spoken about how Declan Rice looked better because he was able to play in the channel that he wanted to. Saka, who I thought was kept quiet by Cucurella, he's allowed to be in a more central position here because he can offer up that kind of movement because he's not having to go over and help because Odegaard can deal with that. And Odegaard's sucking in two players as well whilst he does that. And as it plays on, just that composure on the ball, that waiting just that second longer, and you've got three players here able to run into the box. You've dragged a load of players across, and you've got the brilliance to pick out a pass and find Martinelli. That's one thing. With Martinelli's been running up and down, putting crosses in. That's the thing that everyone's been going at, is because they've had so little in zone 14 and in and around in those half spaces. And having Odegaard on the pitch to be able to play that, and it's not a cross. That's a lofted pass. That's a through ball, essentially. And he knows that Martinelli's going to be there, so much so that he doesn't really even need to look up. It's utterly brilliant. It's a great finish as well. I don't really know when it comes to the goalkeeper if he's supposed to save this or not. It's one of those where, in his mind, he'll be worried about this cross coming across. But, of course, it doesn't happen. He gets done by his near post. I think he'll obviously be gutted that it's gone in. But that comes from, like, the whole drive, the symmetry of this team comes from Odegaard. And, you know, as we've gone through those different players there, so many players on that pitch are in a better state of mind. There's better chemistry there. Turn your WhatsApp off, Kai. So much. Partey looks better. He's able to sit there. Honestly, Saliba, maybe the two centre-backs aside, every single player on that pitch is in a better place because Martin Odegaard is on the pitch. The symmetry's there. And it's just so much better. It's just so much better. Yes, okay, it was just a draw. I get it. But I think there's a lot of stuff that they should be really, really happy with in the fact that he is back on the pitch. And actually could have snuck it, couldn't they? They could have gone and won it. The way they would have done that, even in that moment. And this is the other thing. Moreno comes on. Now Moreno can come on and play essentially in that Declan Rice role. Something that he's comfortable with. He's comfortable to come and pick up the ball in the initial phase of build-up if he needs to. And he's also someone who wants to go and get in the box. Moreno can go and do that now because you've got Odegaard on the pitch. And then someone like Trossard, who's been kind of tasked with sort of helping out the team without Odegaard as that one player with that maybe that level of intelligence. One thing I would say with him is I don't think he can do it alone. I don't think he's the personality that drives others. And so he needs a guy to sort of help him. And who comes to the rescue? Martin Odegaard. Here, in this moment, he then steps into this area here. And Trossard has got, it's not just Odegaard. You've got a lot of great players there. But in terms of stitching it all together, I just can't emphasize enough how simple this analysis really is, which is the fact that Martin Odegaard makes this team so much better. And that pass is able to be made from him. And from there, again, now you've got an overload, you've got problems. He's able to play a simple pass. And then, really, they should have scored the goal. Blood on Trossard's hands. Who had an unfortunate game, doesn't get the goal. His hard work probably deserved. So let's get into player rating, because that's where we'll talk about Cole Palmer, because I think when it comes to Chelsea and how they set up, what was interesting was, for me, I think if we're talking about Martin Odegaard in this way, I think we have to talk about Cole Palmer in the exact same way for Chelsea, because I think he's impossible. We were watching the game, and that's what I said to Kai. I was like, he is impossible to deal with. It's absolutely incredible, the sort of the quality that he has. And my question to Chelsea fans would be, I think you've got a lot of really, really exciting players here. Can you get to where you want to be? For you to get where you want to be, it feels like you're incredibly reliant on Cole Palmer, who was a bit like Odegaard, was stepping in here and then peeling out to help at times. Cole Palmer's doing a very, very similar thing. He did that brilliantly and gets on the half turn and goes past Partey at one point. He was trying to get tight to him. And another moment, able to get it and just lets fly. And he's supposedly, supposed to be injured as well. He's absolutely crucial for them. But in terms of unlocking a team, I think you'd have similar problems if you didn't have Palmer on the pitch. Because I think that there's a problem there. And in terms of the setup for them, I thought, let's work our way through the play range, shall we? Because we'll do Arsenal, but let's do Chelsea first. I think, Sanchez, I think 6 is the baseline here, okay? So Sanchez made one enormous save, I think with his shoulder, which was very important. But I think he'll be disappointed with the first one. So that brings him away from the initial 7 they got with the boost there. So I'm going to give him a 6. Gusto, we'll talk about Gusto in a second. Cucurella, I thought, got player of the match and deserved player of the match. For me, it was between him and one other. We'll talk about that player in just a second. But I thought Cucurella, who's had some tough and dark days at Chelsea and up against Bukayo Saka, kept Bukayo Saka very, very quiet when it comes to his standards and affecting the game. And I think he deserves massive credit there. So I would give Cucurella, I'd go as far as giving Cucurella a 9. Maybe that's a bit punchy. I don't know. Colwill, moments of great passing, able to drill a ball into Palmer, which I think is such a boost for them in terms of being able to play those passes. Also seems to have a mistake in him. Yes, for the goal. We saw it a couple of weeks ago against Liverpool as well. I think he's just going to get better and better. But these are the sort of growing pains now as a starting centre-back for a team that should be getting Champions League football, and he's learning on the job. So I'd give him 6.5. I think overall he'll be a little bit disappointed with what happened for the goal, but it was one of those sort of tight moments, wasn't it? Fofana, we were talking about it. We were saying he's got a bit of a Rudiger vibe about him. I think he's a really, really good player for the sort of overall energy of the team. I thought he had a good game. I'll give him a 7. Lavia, really, really tidy in there. Had to deal with Odegaard and his press as well at times, but just kept it ticking along. I was pretty happy with him in terms of his overall performance. I'd give him a 7 as well. Caicedo, now he is the only other player that I think can lace, does this make sense? Cucurella's boots, because I thought he was absolutely brilliant. he is getting better and better. Again, when we're talking about personality and tenacity, huge, physically covered every blade of grass, able to drive with the ball, loves to buy a free kick now and again, so he's got a bit of the dog in him. And I think when you think of him and Rice, I think that's a battle that's going to go on and on and on. I think it's really, really good. I would give him 8.5. I thought he was absolutely brilliant. Madueke, I thought he was a quiet one for him. I'm going to give him a 5 because I expect a little bit better from him. I don't think he did that much during the game. Gusto, we've skipped past actually, so we'll just do Jackson. I thought his hold-up play was okay at times, and again, he's able to buy a lot of fouls for the team. Could he be a little bit better with his hold-up play, a bit more efficient with his passing? I think he could. So I'm going to give him a 7. He worked hard. Palmer, I thought... Now, he gave the ball away more than any other player, but he was trying stuff. And as I say, he's impossible to stop a lot of the time. I think you need to try and get him a little bit closer to goal, but maybe in these games. I feel sometimes he's playing passes and the rest of the team's not totally on his level. And I think sometimes that makes him look a little bit worse. I'll give him an 8. I thought he was very, very, very good. And Neto, now, a bit of a really clever move here. Now, Saliba's got dragged out for the goal. Where are you? Saliba's got dragged out on this side. Neto on this side. And Timber then comes into midfield. Oh, it's chaos, isn't it? We will get to Gusto, by the way, because I thought he was an interesting one. I've got a question for Chelsea fans when it comes to that. So Neto's come over to this side. Madueke came off. I can't find Mudryk right now, so we'll just put him over here. And what it allowed for was Neto to not just get on the ball, but sort of cutting on that left foot. And obviously he's drilled one in. Can Martinelli be a little bit more switched on in that moment? Yeah, I think he absolutely can. But I think they are humans as well. So I think it's a great goal. It's a great finish. And I thought he did really, really well, actually, Neto overall. I thought he was getting a bit of a pummeling in the commentary. I couldn't really understand it. So with the goal, you give him a little boost there, don't you? I'm going to give him a 7.5. Let's talk about Gusto before we get on to Arsenal. Because Gusto, the question I have here... I love Gusto. I think he's absolutely fantastic. But when you've got him on that same plane as Cole Palmer, but, you know, his whole career, obviously, he's been a right back or a full back or a left back. Can he provide the output that you need, Chelsea fans? Because when you're in this position, you're going to get shots off and you better be good at it. And speaking of someone who was fine here when you had to play pings, but if I had to get into the penalty box, I'll get a nosebleed. I smell that in Gusto. That makes sense? I just feel like when he gets to these positions, if we move it forward, we'll see exactly that. This is a great bit from Chelsea, and Cole Palmer's got the ball exactly where you want him to have the ball. Jackson's where you want him to be. You've got two outstanding wingers, exactly who you want to be. And the pass that's on is Malo Gusto. And is he the guy you want there? I get it helps in terms of working your way up the pitch, but he gets a shot off. It gets blocked really, really comfortably. And of course, he has a chance to score that header, and it feels really simple, and he should be scoring it. Would an out-and-out midfielder who's got that sort of goal-scoring mindset, is that person going to score the goals that you need? And is it going to cost you, not crowbarring, but the fact that you got Reece James, and it shows Maresca's brave enough to make these changes, but to drop someone like Reece James, you're going to play Gusto, and I understand he gets into that area and he'll go there and he's brave enough to be there, but is he going to get you the goals that you need? Is that something that's going to hurt Chelsea this season? I'm not sure it's the full-time answer when it comes to them. And I wonder, because, when he's in this channel here, he's fine, he's steady, but is he going to get you the goals that you need? I thought overall he was steady enough. 7.5. 7. I'm going to give him a 7. Drop down because he's got to score that header, if I'm honest. Over to Arsenal. Raya, I thought he did really, really well. Came off his line brilliantly. Claimed a lot of crosses for the team as well. He'll be disappointed with the goal, but I think I'll give him a 7. Two centre-backs played really well. Saliba and Gabriel. I thought Gabriel was really, really tenacious. I'm going to give him a 7.5. Saliba a 7. Timber, I thought was brilliant on that left-hand side. I thought he was really enjoying himself. I'm going to give him 7 3/4. Can we do that? We've done it. Martinelli looked a little bit revived for me. Obviously gets himself a goal, so I'm going to give him a 7.5 as well. Declan Rice, I thought for him to be as injured as he clearly was, to get that much out of him, the energy that he showed, tackles that he made, the way that he drove with the ball, I thought he was absolutely brilliant. I'm going to give him an 8. I do like my Declan Rice. Who doesn't like Rice? Partey, I thought really, really steady in there. Dropped deep at times to help, because often out of possession you'd have Palmer and Jackson. And so to get around that at times, Partey, there's a lot of lights, isn't it? Partey would just drop in and solve that problem. And I think this is Arsenal's best team, isn't it? I'm going to give him an 8. I thought it was brilliant. Havertz, I thought it was unfortunate. I'm going to give him a 7, but it could have so easily been a 9 if he'd have got those 2 goals, because obviously that's your bread and butter as a striker. Odegaard, to come back, everything we've spoken about, to do what he did today, I'm going to give him an 8 and a quarter, because I think Cucurella maybe just gets it, just about. Ben White, steady Eddie, 6.5. Saka, by his standards, I'm going to give him a 6, because I thought he struggled. I did think he struggled. And those are my player ratings. What are your player ratings? Let me know in the comments down below, and hit the like button if you enjoyed it. Bye.